I'd like to thank everyone for coming out to the London City Council meeting. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to our country and to freedom and to the people of Ukraine. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Get that started.
All right, we'll take a roll call. Mr. Eads.
Here.
Mr. Peters.
Here.
Mr. Robinson. Mr. Hayes.
Here.
Mr. Hitt.
Here.
Mr. Stahl.
Here.
Mr. Smith.
Here.
All right, we have a quorum. Good to see everyone. And have you had a chance to take a look at the minutes from our March 3rd meeting? It's been a while since we've been together. I understand there's a correction on there, and it's changing the time of the safety meeting, March 8th, and it was listed as 1 o'clock.
It's 1 o'clock.
And change that to 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock. Mm-hmm.
So we'll make sure that the change is made for the safety meeting. It was listed for 1 o'clock, but we want to change that to 5 o'clock. All right. And with that change, all in favor of approving those minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right. All right. Communications and announcements. Let's see here. We do not have any this evening. Audience concerns. First off, we have Anita Likens. Please come to the podium, state your name and address, and you have 5 minutes. Thank you.
So, Wright Pat, Air Force Base, I work with the USO over there. It's a fantastic, and thank you for your mentioning of Ukraine. We are having a lot of service members deployed at this point in time, so thank you. I want to continue with my reading of the Constitution, and perhaps it's been a while. You'll recall that we did finish Article 1, which dealt with legislative branch of the United States trilogy, you would call it, with the executive branch and the Supreme Court. I would read just a brief comment from George Washington. He wrote, "The power under the Constitution will always be in the people. It is entrusted for certain defined purposes and for a certain limited period to representatives of their own choosing, and whenever it is executed contrary to their interest or not agreeable to their wishes, their servants can and undoubtedly will be recalled." And what's interesting on this is it's a primacy aspect. The Founding Fathers wrote the Constitution with what they considered most important first. They wrote the legislative branch first, Article 1 with 10 sections. Then they went on with the executive section, which we'll be reading tonight, that only has 4 sections, and then the Supreme Court that only had 3 sections. You will see this also when we get into the articles. They started with the first, which was the freedom of speech, which we're doing this evening. Thank you. So, Article 2, Section 1. The executive power shall be vested in a President of the United States of America. He shall hold his office during the term of 4 years, and together with the Vice President, chosen for the same term, be elected as follows. Each state shall appoint, in such manner as the legislature may direct, a number of electors equal to the whole number of senators and representatives to which the state may be entitled to in the Congress, but no senator or representative or person holding an office of trust or profit under the United States shall be appointed as an elector. The electors shall meet in their respective states and vote for a ballot by 2 persons, of whom one at least shall not be an inhabitant of the same state with themselves. And they shall make a list of all the persons voted for and of the number of votes for each, which list they shall sign and certify and transmit sealed to the seat of government of the United States, directed to the President of the Senate. The President of the Senate shall, in the presence of the Senate and House of Representatives, open all certificates, and the votes shall then be counted. The person having the greatest number of votes shall be the President. If such a number be a majority of the whole number of electors appointed, And if there be more than one who have such a majority and have an equal number of votes, then the House of the Representatives shall immediately choose by ballot one of them for president. And if no person have a majority, then from the five highest on the list, the said House shall in a like manner choose the president. But bottom line, in choosing the president, the vote shall be taken by the states, the representation from each state having one vote. A quorum for this purpose shall consist of a member or members from 2/3 of the states, and a majority of all the states shall be necessary to a choice. In every case, having the choice of a president, the person having the greatest number of votes of the electors shall be the vice president. But if there should remain 2 or more who have equal votes, the Senate shall choose them from the ballot of the vice president. The Congress may determine the time of choosing the electors and the day on which they shall give their votes, which day shall be the same throughout the United States. No person, except a natural-born citizen or a citizen of the United States at the time of the adoption of this Constitution, shall be eligible to the office of president. Neither shall any person be eligible to that office who shall not have attained to the age of 35 years and been at least 14 years a resident within the United States. In brackets, in case of the removal of the president from office or his death, resignation, or inability to discharge the powers and duties of said office, the same shall devolve on the vice president, and the Congress may by law provide for the case of removal, death, resignation, or inability, both of the president and the vice president, declaring what officer shall then act as president. And such officer shall act accordingly until the disability be removed or a president can be elected. The president shall, at stated terms, receive for his services a compensation, which shall neither be increased nor diminished during the period for which he shall have been elected, and he shall not receive within that period any other dollars from the United States or any of the individual states. Before he enters on the execution of his office, he shall take the following oath of affirmation. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. Section 2. The President shall be the Commander-in-Chief of the Army and the Navy of the United States and the militia of the individual states when called into the actual service of the United States. He may require an opinion in writing of the principal officer in each of the executive departments upon any subject relating to the duties of their respective offices, and he shall have power to grant reprieves and pardons for offenses against the United States except in cases of impeachment. He shall also have the power by and with the advice and consent of the Senate to make treaties, provide 2/3 of the senators provide consent and concur, and he shall nominate by and with the advice and consent of the Senate, he shall appoint ambassadors, other public administrators, ministers, consuls, judges of the Supreme Court, and all other officers of the United States. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Very apropos for the times we're living in.
Next, we have Dave Mars. Please come to the podium, state your name and your address. You have 5 minutes, please.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Dave Mars, address is 155 North Oak Street. Came to just speak to a resolution that you'll just be going through your first reading tonight, so you won't be acting on it or anything, but I just want to give you some information on it's Resolution 129-22 to vacate an alley. So I just want to give a little bit of background and what we're planning to do. Obviously, when you are going to vote on it, we'll come back and speak a little bit more in depth. Those of you that don't know me, I own Mars Property Services. We rehab homes. We work almost exclusively in London. We've flipped quite a few homes here. We are starting to work with Downtown Group. Myself and 3 other gentlemen are working to rehab some buildings downtown. It's myself, Todd Fisher, Steve Baker, and Brian Wheeler. So we have started a project on 64 South Main, where we are, and if you're not familiar with it, it's right across from the theater, and it's the one that has 2 bay windows out front. It's in pretty rough shape. But our first phase of that project is we are going to, at the moment, it's 6 one-bedroom apartments upstairs. We're converting it to 4 two-bedroom apartments with a luxury suite in the front as one of those units. One of the things we'd like to do is vacate the alley to the side for a couple reasons. One of them is that to be able to properly manage the egresses, we need to land, we would prefer to land an egress on that easement. Whereas right now, if you look at any of the buildings downtown that have upstairs apartments, a lot of them have a egress that runs along the side of the building, but they actually run the framing into the side of the building at an angle. It's not a good way to do it. Any of the architects that I've spoken to want to land something on a foundation. So that's part of why we want to do it. The other part is that that's, with any of the alleys downtown, the city is not maintaining those, and they get to be a bit of an eyesore. We'd like to convert that into a courtyard that could be used by both adjoining properties and even during festivals and that sort of thing, something that won't be an eyesore. And we can address this more, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. It's sort of what our plans for that are. But we're just looking to make it a nice space. In this restoration, we're also going to be redoing the facade of the building, and then down the road, we're going to be doing rehab on the downstairs, on the commercial spaces in the downstairs of the unit. And then further down the road, we'll be doing this on other buildings as well. This is kind of our trial run, so that's what this resolution is about. We'll speak to it more down the road. One other benefit that I might add is that by vacating that alley, there are, I measured it out, there's room for 4 parking spaces there, because once it's vacated, it could be curbed, and then that opens up the possibility of 4 additional parking spots, which are kind of hard to come by in the downtown right now. So again, we'll speak to this more later. If anybody has any questions or would like more information on what we're doing, if anybody would like to stop by our work site, you're more than welcome to come by and see what we're doing. Just listen for hammers swinging, and you'll get to the right place. So that's it, and I really appreciate all of your work and your consideration. Thank you.
Question.
Yes.
You say you're going from 6 one-bedroom apartments to 4 two-bedroom apartments? Is that correct?
Correct.
And then in the front there'll be what? A luxury?
So the front unit is going to be finished at a higher level of finish. It's going to be exposed brick. Right now, we don't know exactly how we're going to end up marketing it. It will either be a condo, a luxury apartment, or possibly an Airbnb. One of those. But the physical manifestation of it is going to be a very nice, well done, high-end granite countertop kind of space that'll be there facing the street. You can see those bay windows. It's going to be a really premium space that whoever ends up using it, whether it's an Airbnb, whether it's somebody buys it, or whether we end up renting it, it's going to be kind of a premium in downtown.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. And this will be scheduled for a public hearing on our May 5th meeting. Will be the first one that it'll be scheduled for. Thank you. All right. On to committee reports. Don't have any. All right. City official reports, none. All right. On to old business for the third reading. Ordinance number 11422. Motion to read by title or number.
So moved. Second.
Second. All right. Ordinance 11422, sponsored by Josh Peters, an ordinance amending section 880.15 of the codified ordinance.
Let me figure out which one. Oh, this is with the tax department. So I'm going to let Rex speak on this.
All right. The Tax Incentive Review Committee?
No.
No?
No, this has to do with allocation of income taxes when they're received. Ordinance currently reads that the tax department will be funded in full before any tax revenues are dispersed to capital or general fund. And the tax department, being, diligent in their spending, has not spent all their money every year that was put in their fund for them, and they've amassed quite a bit of money. So this change is going to basically say, before we do that allocation to their department, if they already have 120% of the money necessary to operate their department for that given year, that step's going to be skipped, and then the money will go then to the capital fund, 10% to the capital fund, and the rest will go to general. And based on the calculations I'm looking at, this will probably happen about every 7 years, that they won't get funded. It'll go to those other funds quicker. It'll help increase capital, and it'll help, help the general fund also. It's usually about $300,000 to $400,000. So, and I think they have about $500,000 that they've accumulated in their funds, so they've got plenty of money in there.
Okay. All right, any questions here? Then this is the third reading.
Move for adoption.
Second.
Second, all right. First and second for adoption. Mr. Eads,
Yes.
Mr. Peters,
Yes.
Mr. Hayes,
Yes.
Mr. Hitt,
Yes.
Mr. Stahl,
Yes.
and Mr. Smith.
Yes.
All right. So 11422 has been adopted. On to our new business, Resolution 12722, a motion to read by title or number.
So moved.
Second.
Second, all right. Resolution 12722, sponsored by Josh Peters, a resolution adopting the recommendation of the Tax Incentive Review Council.
Okay, this meeting was held on March 10th, and the committee moved to recommend to continue the following community reinvestment area agreements with 6 of the following: Neeson Chemtech America, Triple Play Restaurants, Elite It, FTS.com, Stanley Electric, and BST. Yeah, so there weren't any problems with any of those companies.
Okay,
They're still following their agreements.
okay, that's good. They're still following their agreements. So the recommendation of the Tax Review Committee was to continue those
Yes.
tax incentives through their deadline. Okay, any questions on,
Yes, sir.
yes,
So on number 6 there, the BST agreement, that has expired as of 12/31/21. Mr. Alcott, I believe, passed away. So I don't know if the agreement's been changed moving forward. And can we still make an agreement with him or whoever's in charge of the company?
This one expired on 12/31/21.
Yes.
So, so that was their last year, but they still followed through, so.
So
it's
we're not extending an agreement to them.
Correct. This was just states that they followed their agreement to 12/31/21.
Okay. I thought I read we're trying to extend the agreement.
No.
So we're extending for everyone else on the list.
Well, they just,
continue.
they continue.
Okay.
So like Neeson, they'll go until 12/31/23. That was for 10 years, and theirs expires on 12/31/23. And then Triple Play, which is Taco Bell, theirs will expire 12/31/26.
All right. So with the Tax Incentive Review Committee, they review the agreement that they have in order to abate those taxes, and as long as they are adhering to their side of the bargain, they agree to keep that abatement through that deadline. So I would imagine if the Tax Incentive Review Committee met and found that they were not adhering to that, then they may recommend to end the abatement. But I think they found them all favorable and decided to continue those with the Alcott BST expiring 12/31/21. All right, so any other questions there? All right, yes.
Josh, was there a time this has to be filed? Do you remember them saying that?
Da, 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 da.
Oh, it's the 29th, is that correct?
Yeah, there's this, they'd like for this to be declared an emergency measure due to the state's reporting requirements to have recommendations adopted by March 31st, 2022.
Right.
To take effect and be in full force immediately upon its passage.
And that is here in, on the resolution that is included in the section 2 as an emergency, so that they meet the deadline for filing.
Can I make a recommendation that this committee meets sooner, so we don't have to put an emergency clause on this? Maybe that's something I need to talk to Pat about for next year.
He's not the one that accumulates that. That's done through the chamber,
Well, I mean,
I
that
believe. But yeah, we can
relay
make
that
a
to the
recommendation
chamber
to that.
in the school.
Yeah.
I agree. I think we ran into the same issue back in, I think it was 2014, when it was running really close to the deadline, and there wasn't much time to discuss anything after that. So, what are our wishes here with the emergency clause?
I move to suspend the 3 reading rule.
Okay,
I'll second.
and a second. All right, we'll take a roll call for suspension. Mr. Eads,
Yes.
Mr. Peters,
Yes.
Mr. Hayes,
Yes.
Mr. Hitt,
Yes.
Mr. Stahl,
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Move for
Okay.
adoption.
For adoption.
Second.
And a second for adoption. Roll call for adoption. Mr. Eads,
Yes.
Mr. Peters,
Yes.
Mr. Hayes,
Yes.
Mr. Hitt,
Yes.
Mr. Stahl,
Yes.
and Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Okay. So 12722 has been adopted. On to 12822. Resolution 12822, a motion to read by title or number.
So moved.
Second.
Second. All right. Resolution 12822, sponsored by Anthony Smith, a resolution authorizing the Board of Public Utilities to sell property unneeded, obsolete, or unfit for municipal purposes.
This is a 2005 Sterling. The sanitation department has not used this truck for more than 2 years. When we switched to the trash cans, this truck was not able to be used. Essentially how it operates is it has an arm on the side of it that has a can, and the bags were thrown into the can, and then it would dump into the main bed area. It was, I hate to bash it, I guess, since we're going to try to sell it, but we've tried to trade it in. We kept it for a while, see if there was any uses that would come. Nothing has come. Les said that the truck has not, as far as he knows, the truck hasn't even been started in 2 years. But we tried to trade it in. We were purchasing the trucks, all the different companies we talked to, they did not want it. Most likely, whoever gets it will not even use it as a trash truck. The biggest reason that none of the companies even want to look at trading it in is municipalities, villages, townships, whatever. Nobody uses that style of truck anyway. It's just too old. It's an outdated style. So I don't know if it'll be worth more than $1,000 for sure. We don't know.
All right.
So
Any further questions on 12822?
Yep.
Yes.
Mr. Smith, you weren't at the meeting. You're okay with putting your name on this ordinance?
yeah, they reached out to me.
Okay, I'm just making
Yeah.
sure, because I find that a little strange sometimes to just
Sure,
apply
right,
the
show
name
up,
to
yeah.
someone. And secondly, I do know at the meeting that we discussed that this was actually going to go on government deals
Mm-hmm.
or governmentdeals.com. So it was going to be posted there. This ordinance just states that it's going to be advertised in the paper, but I think it's going to be placed there.
I think it
also.
has to go to government deals, is what I understand. So I know that it'll be in the paper, but I believe we have to put it on government deals, even whether it's in the legislation or not. We
Oh,
have to.
oh,
put
okay,
it in.
so,
Yeah.
so the legislation will probably just indicate when it's, or not the legislation, the newspaper ad will say.
We'll say go to government deals.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for the
Yeah.
clarification.
All right.
We do have expense in this truck. All of our vehicles are insured. If anybody doesn't really have a major objection, I would like to suspend, get the process started. We've tried everything. Probably should have got rid of it a while ago. They have been working on it for a little bit, and then they needed to make sure that I talked to them that it went through finance and went through the proper channels before it came to council. So.
Is that motion?
No, I made a motion. Yeah, I just wanted to see if.
And then that would at least save dollars on even the insurance.
Correct, right.
Sitting there.
Yeah, because even though we're not using it, it's a city vehicle. We have to pay the insurance. I'd like to see them get rid of it as soon as possible. If somebody does want to buy it, realistically, one thing that could happen is the only usage is scrap pricing. That is a realistic possibility. And so the batteries that are in it are not good, and we want to make sure that we do not have to purchase batteries. So just the longer it sits, the worse, the more difficult it's going to be to start the truck. Because obviously, it is a big motor, so you got to get, multiple jump boxes, things like that. So I think it'd just be a good thing. Just move it along, get it out of here quickly as possible. Those batteries, there's a lot of them, and they're not cheap. So does anyone else have any questions or? So then I will go ahead and make a motion to suspend the 3 reading rule
I'll
for
second.
12822.
All right, we got a first from Anthony and second from John. All right, roll call. Mr. Eads?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Hitt?
Yes.
Mr. Stahl?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Move to adopt.
Second.
All right, so move to adopt by Mr. Stahl and second by Mr. Smith. Roll call for adoption. Mr. Eads?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Hitt?
Yes.
Mr. Stahl?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Okay, 12822 has been adopted. All right, Ordinance 12922, a motion to read by title or number.
So moved?
Second.
All right, second. Ordinance 12922, sponsored by Josh Peters, an ordinance vacating an alley.
First off, I was not asked to sponsor this, but I will
Okay.
sponsor it. I do have a couple questions. Let me get to it. The abutting properties, would the Catholic diocese have to be mentioned on this as a abutting property? Property behind it?
Now, is the request all the way through to the Catholic diocese property, or is it just the
I
section?
know it runs perpendicular with that other alley.
But does it go through the other alley?
That's what
or
I'm
does it
asking.
stop?
Would-
It looks like it stops right
Start
before.
should be just his property.
Yeah, it looks like it stops right before the alley that goes all the way through.
I would think so.
That's what the
That's why I was just
drawing.
asking if they would.
Do you know, Mr. Mars? Okay, if you could come to the microphone so we could hear you on the recording there.
Well, it's a dumpster right now anyway.
Yeah.
It's the best thing the Catholics can get.
Yeah.
So there's a back alley that we did not request the vacation of, specifically because that's an access for lots of reasons, and also for utilities. And I would imagine that would be what would abut to the Catholic diocese. The only two that touch this would be the Jackman building, which is 60 South Main, and 64 South Main, which is the building that we're working on. But in the diagram that I've submitted, there's a separation there at the back of the property where we're not vacating that back alley.
And then my other question, since you're
Sure,
there,
I'll stay right here if you want.
I see that Dave Jackman didn't sign off on this. Is he
He is not at the moment
in favor? of
in
this?
favor. We may or may not hear from him, and I have been in communication with him indirectly, and I'm looking forward to having a chance to talk to him about that. But at the moment, he's not in favor.
Okay.
Then I just recommend this go to Public Service Committee
Right.
for the next meeting.
All right, this will be sent to the Public Service Committee before the next meeting for further discussion along with the scheduling of the public hearing on May 5th.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, on to Resolution 13022, a motion to read by title or number.
So
Do we,
moved.
Oh, go ahead. Yes.
I believe we have to vote on that, don't we?
Or,
Because are you actually sending it out of council to public service?
I just recommended,
yeah, that's going to go from well, because it's just.
I think if it goes to a committee, I could be wrong, I think if you're sending it to a committee, will remove it from this agenda and sends it back to the committee. Which I'm not sure if that's what you're asking or not.
No, we're just saying that it needs to be discussed in a committee because according to our rules, the four things are, I guess, voted on. They can be read here first time in council, but then go to a committee. It can be referred to a committee for further discussion.
Okay. I mean, I'm completely indifferent either way. I have
Yeah.
no, but I thought if it,
Are you talking about like tabling it or something like
Yeah.
that? Because we're not really.
we're not tabling
Yeah,
it,
we're just
but
sending it to
I
a
thought if
committee
it was,
for-
yeah, but I thought if it was sent to a committee, just because we had legislation like that before, remember, that was sent to a committee and it took it off the agenda. I think you could recommend it to, I don't know if you just recommend it to be discussed. I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, we'll recommend this to be discussed further in a committee,
Okay. But not to have
and
maybe-
there's a public hearing on it too.
Right. But if
So-
you say not to remove it from the from the agenda.
Right. Yeah, we're not removing it from the agenda, but it's.
Then
gonna
I
be-
wouldn't, yeah, I wouldn't think we'd have to vote on it.
Yeah, because it's going to stay on because we do have the public hearing too,
Right.
so it's not
Right.
going
Okay.
anywhere
Yeah.
for a while. But it will stay on the agenda too, so it's not going to come off where it would go to the committee and then not come back onto the agenda until the committee
Right.
talks. It's
Right.
just going for further discussion along with
In
the
that.
public hearing. All right, on to Resolution 13022, a motion to read by title or number.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Resolution 13022, sponsored by Greg Eads, a resolution increasing appropriations.
Okay, so I've been an advocate for this city to have a camera system so that we can look at the storm sewers, the sanitary sewers, anything that we own, have a camera system, we can do that. Mr. Long's been very diligent, I believe, in trying to research this. And I would like him to speak on this if he would come up here for a minute, or Rex can either. But the camera system that he's seen and proposed is going to be at least $100,000. There is $58,000 still left in the ARP fund, which is unused at this point. So it was Mr. Long's suggestion that we use the $58,000 towards the purchase of the camera. We're not sure if it's going to be right at $100,000, so we discussed appropriating $60,000 more just so that we know that there's enough money in this account to do this, and that by doing this we can move forward, get the camera, and that he can start that process as his crews are available to do it. Rex or Bill, do you have anything to add?
I mean, it's been talked about for years, but we've always just kicked it down the road. So, I mean, with the ARP money, we looked at using storm sewer money, but you cannot use that for that purpose. So that's why the appropriations have to be.
All right. And like you said, this has been discussed in the past, and it has been kind of kicked down the road, but it's good now that we're acting on this because we can't continue to kick things down the road since we are the ones that are the stewards of this now. So I'm really grateful for Mr. Eads bringing this legislation before us.
And Mr. Long, as
Yes.
we've talked about this in committees, and he and Rex, I think, have talked about this and tried to find it. I did ask Mr. Castle a question before the meeting started, and maybe he'll speak on this for a minute, and that is being a purchase of $100,000, is this going to have to be competitively bid? What's going to be the process from here? And I believe he has an answer for us.
Yeah, I discussed it with Bill. It was kind of what I thought I'd mentioned to Greg, was the company that sells it is under the state purchasing program, which exempts it from going out. We don't have to take it out to bid because they basically have done that for us through the state program,
Okay.
purchasing program. And Bill is looking at multiple companies, and he's pretty sure both of them are under that same program
Okay.
to make sure we get the best price.
All right.
Which
And
I
we'll
can
just
tell
put-
you, government pricing does not always mean the best deal.
Well,
So-
you're true, you're probably right,
Right.
but if we don't use that.
You're right, I'm not
then
saying
we
you're
have to go
right.
out to bid, and it slows down the process.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying you go out to bid either. I'm just saying that, I was under the idea that government pricing was always the best pricing. When I dealt with the trucks, the government pricing, we were tens of thousands of dollars, way even more than that, under what our original government bid pricing. Will freshwater, will they be able to use that at all? Or would we want them to use that if it's,
The only thing you can use it for stormwater.
is stormwater,
Sanitary.
sanitary?
Okay.
So it'd be for sewer too then, right? Because it's all connected, yeah, so we'd feel,
Okay.
okay.
And I think that this is a really good addition to the other things that have been done to begin to get our infrastructure mapped and lead it in a better direction. I think this is great. We have our wishes here.
Make a motion to bypass 3 reading rule.
Second.
In a second. Roll call for that. Mr. Eads,
Yes.
Mr. Peters,
Yes.
Mr. Hayes,
Yes.
Mr. Hitt,
Yes.
Mr. Stahl,
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Move to adopt.
Second.
All right. Move to adopt by Mr. Stahl, second by Mr. Hayes. Roll call for adoption. Mr. Eads,
Yes.
Mr. Peters,
Yes.
Mr. Hayes,
Yes.
Mr. Hitt,
Yes.
Mr. Stahl,
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Okay. All right. 13022 has been adopted. All right. On to ordinance 13122, a motion to read by title or number.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
And a second by Mr. Stahl. Let's see here. Ordinance 13122, sponsored by Josh Peters, an ordinance for strengths on job descriptions.
Okay, the strength ordinance was last adopted, ordinance 10122. Since the Parks and Rec Director is resigning effective June 4th, we would like to get somebody hired in before she leaves so she can cross-train the new hire. And this strength ordinance would only be temporarily until June 4th of 2022.
Okay.
So if they hire somebody, sometime in April, that Tammy can cross-train them up until June 4th.
Okay. Any questions on 13122?
Well, specifically, we're under a time crunch with this.
We are, yeah.
So this is one you really want to go through as quickly as can. So if they do find a candidate, and I don't know where they're at in the process, I think they've posted the job. Is that true, correct? Or is that correct, Rex?
Yes.
So I don't know if they have any applicants yet or what their timeline is, but, the sooner we get someone here that we can cross-train, the better off we're going to be. So I move to suspend the rules on this.
Second.
Second, okay. So suspension and a second by Mr. Stahl. Roll call for suspension. Mr. Eads?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Hitt?
Yes.
Mr. Stahl?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Move to adopt.
Second.
All right, move to adopt by Mr. Stahl, second by Mr. Hayes. Roll call for adoption. Mr. Eads?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Hitt?
Yes.
Mr. Stahl?
Yes.
And Mr. Smith?
Yes.
All right, 13122 has been adopted. On to resolution 13222, a motion to read by title or number.
So moved.
Second.
All right, first and second. Let's see here. Resolution 13222, sponsored by Josh Peters. Josh, you're on the roll tonight. Resolution authorizing participation in the ODOT road salt contracts awarded in 2022.
Okay, yeah, this basically, we do this yearly for, to get on ODOT's road salt contract list. This is due, I want to say, April 29th, is that right?
Yes. No later than April 29th.
April 29th.
You know?
That's the bottom of that.
So then that like basically puts our name in there saying that, yes, we want salt, put our name in for the bid? Okay.
Puts our name on there, and then we have to give how many tonnage we want to purchase.
Okay, and then it says that you have to get at least, 90% from
You have to
them?
get 90% of that contract, and you can go up to 100.
Okay.
We can get salt somewhere else? I'm not saying it's easy, I'm just out of curiosity.
Yes, you can.
Yeah,
You,
that's
you
interesting.
can go to the market,
Yeah,
which is what took place when I first come here, because there was no contract with
Here we-
ODOT.
yeah. Oh, it's all right, you don't have to explain the whole thing, I just,
Yeah, there was no contract with ODOT when I first come here, so I had to find it on the open market. We actually paid, and don't hold me to these numbers, but I think it was like $10 or $12 a ton more.
really, wow.
And I mean, there is times, like you said before, there is times, yes, you can get it cheaper, but yes, there's times you're gonna pay more.
Yeah,
So I myself, I prefer to stay with the state contract because
yeah,
it works out pretty better.
Right, because if you do it the other way, you get it at the current price that they're selling it at, whatever it is then.
Yes.
I think there was a shortage that year, right?
Yeah, there was a shortage that year, so.
Oh, yeah, there was, when they were taking back salt, because
Yeah.
I remember that. They took salt back because they needed it. Okay. Any further questions?
Well, we have time on this, so we have
Yeah, you
time
can-
for 3 readings on
Yeah,
this.
that's why I asked Henry if I could go ahead and bring it here.
Yep.
We can discuss it in service.
Service, yep.
And get the 3 readings in and pass it to the last council meeting next month. And should still have time to get the contract in.
Okay. And this is just straight salt, right? It's not mixed or anything?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
just
All right.
salt.
All right. So we'll leave that one on too. Now on to roundtable. We'll begin with Mr. Smith.
just thank everyone for coming tonight, that's all I have.
All right, Mr. Stahl.
Same thing.
All right, Mr. Hitt.
I have nothing.
All right, Mr. Hayes.
I want to thank all the employees for the City of London. Job's well done. Bill, I want to thank you for taking care of the situation up there with the bank. I got like 3 or 4 calls on it, and I called, and it was taken care of right away. I appreciate that so much. Continue to pray for our people in Ukraine. Tough situation over there right now, but Ukrainians, I think, are pulling it out. They sunk a ship today, and Ukrainians have got some heart. The Russians are turning and running, and so maybe we're going to win this battle after all. Pray blessings upon the city of London, Ohio, from the Lord and its people, and thank everybody for coming out tonight, and God bless.
All right, Mr. Peters.
I just want to thank Anita and David Morris here tonight. Other than that, I'm good.
All right, Mr. Eads.
Couple things. Something we don't have on the books, I don't believe that maybe we should look at in the future if London's going to grow as everybody thinks that it is, the administration thinks it is, and at the meeting the other night, they discussed the growth of London or potential growth. And we do not have, I believe, any type of a bed tax or hotel tax. So other places have that in place, and they actually take their money for that bed tax and they actually apply it in certain places, such as economic development. So with the possibility, and I know there are places that also apply that to Airbnb and the vacation rental by owner, that they actually collect the tax and pay it, especially in the state of Florida, that's a mandatory thing. So maybe this is an ordinance that we want to look at in the future to get it on the books before a hotel says they're going to build here, and then it looks like we're just trying to get in their pocket. We can get the ordinance on the books beforehand, and then there'll be no surprises later. That's part one. Part two, I want to recognize and thank the street department. One of the things about the water issues is, you have to make sure the waterways are clear. They've been working on the waterways, and that's a process, and I know a lot of people complain. I certainly know a lot of people complain about that, but they're doing what they have to do. And the second part that I just to bring up is the new traffic lights that are up already. I've heard so many positive comments that people can see those, Bill, I've got a question for you afterwards, when you're still here about that. I just had a thought. So I'm glad that's going up, and I know that people know that government works at the pace of a snail. And the money for that was passed last year, and now it's starting to happen, and I think people have to realize that things do take time. Bill had said, and he didn't mention this, but he said in the meeting that even if he gets the camera system, he suggested it could take up to 5 years to map it all, because he just doesn't have the staff and the time to do all of that. So let's not set an expectation that we're going to buy a camera and then next week we know where all the problems are. It's going to take time to do that. And I also want to recognize Merrimack Miracle, the park, that they got some of their playground equipment in, and you guys are doing a cornhole tournament this Saturday, right? And then there is the London Marathon. If you didn't know that, we have a marathon here in London, Ohio. This is the second year. Mr. Mars is in charge of that, and it's a 26-mile, and he's trying to promote this. If you want to get into the Boston Marathon, come here, because it's a flat course, and get a record here. So I just wanted to recognize those things while they came to mind.
And they've added a 5K to it, correct?
Right, I think it's
Mi-
that's a full
Mr.
marathon.
Mars, they've added a 5K to that?
A half marathon and a 5K. Is that right, David?
Okay.
Snow floors, they're called.
Okay, that's awesome.
And if
Right here in
anybody
London.
wants to volunteer, I'm sure he still needs volunteers for that. If you want to get up bright and early, because evidently marathon runners like to get out daybreak.
Yeah,
For Jordan.
7 a.m. All right. Oh, do we have a update on the bearing installed on what for the water plant bearing in the
Oh, the bearing was
in the
installed.
chain?
The bearing is installed.
Okay.
The old chain was put back on.
Okay.
Because we did a search for a chain, they brought it in, it wasn't configured properly, it had to be broken down into 1-foot sections, and the one we got was a continuous, and they couldn't put it in. So they went ahead and put the old chain in so they could get the thing running, get the water softening process started. The feeling is that when they do get the correct chain in, that they should be able to leave everything in place and replace that chain in a matter of a day and not disrupt service as far as the softening is concerned. We have been getting phone calls about, that they think the softening system quit working because they got brown water. Well, we started flushing fire hydrants today, and that's going to cause your water to discolor also. So if anybody sees discoloration in their water, it's because of the hydrants probably being flushed in your neighborhood.
Okay.
And that'll go on the rest of this month and next month, I believe.
Okay. All right. So for all intents and purposes, the filtration system is active.
Yeah, I could tell when I took my shower, it's lathering now
That's-
instead of just a little bit of bubbles. Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Good to hear. I'm glad to hear that. All right. I also like to, just send our thoughts and prayers out to the people of Ukraine. They're being really strong out there. They're standing for freedom. They want freedom. They want justice. And I would, pray that there's some way that the other nations that stand for freedom too are able to help them to maintain their freedom. We're really lucky here in the United States. We've already fought for our freedom and we gained it, and it's not threatened. So, as Mrs. Likens reads the Constitution for us, where it was built on a really good foundation. So I'm glad of that, and we've all sworn to uphold that. So that hopefully we don't have to fight for our freedom again one day. So keep Ukraine in your prayers and thoughts, as well as the city of London. Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.